Good day, everyone. Today I will be discussing the other causes of conflict. First, we have misunderstanding, misperception, and miscommunication. Conflict may arise when there is a mistake in one's comprehension of an intention or when there is incorrect interpretation of another statement or actions. This might happen if we, as a sender, for instance, we don't transmit messages carefully, clearly, and concisely. So, the person we are talking to might be confused or misunderstood the thing we are trying to convey. Now, at the same time, if the receiver of messages also don't comprehend or interpret or they don't fully understand what we are saying, then conflict may arise. Therefore, as a sender and as a receiver of messages, we need to carefully choose our words, and at the same time, we also need to understand and interpret messages that we are receiving so that we can avoid misunderstanding, misperception, and miscommunication. Second, we have the gaps between expectations and results. Conflict may arise when what is hoped for is not delivered or what is being anticipated did not materialize. So this happens when what we expect doesn't match on what actually happens. For example, you might expect your teams or your group mates to finish a project by Friday, but they only complete half of it. So this can lead to frustration and conflict. Third, we have the incompatibility of ideas, opinions, and beliefs. Conflict may arise when one's ideas, beliefs, and opinion are contrary or opposed to another. This occurs when we have different viewpoints or beliefs. For example, you might believe in climate change, while your friend doesn't. Now, this can also lead to disagreements and arguments. Fourth, incompatibility of values and practices. So many time differences in values and practices emanating from cultural differences produce tension. So this happens when we have different cultural values or practices, right? One example of this is in some culture it is considered rude to arrive late, yet in other being late is common. So if one is inconsiderate, then there will be a cause of conflict as well. Fifth one, competition over material resource. Conflict may arise when parties want to own or control the same material resource. One example of this is when two siblings fight over the same toys, or if you and your sister fight over the same dress. So now if none of you don't let it go, then there's a possibility that you both will hurt each other or it will eventually lead to a violence. Sixth, desire for revenge. The desire to get back may cause conflict. Now, for instance, if someone bullies you and then you might feel the urge to get revenge, then that will eventually cause to a conflict as well. For the seventh, need for attention and appreciation. Attention withdrawn or not given, especially if desired, may cause conflict. So if we talk about attention, sometimes there's people out there or even ourselves. If we feel ignored or if we feel unappreciated, sometimes we do something that could trigger them, like something that would eventually make them worry or angry, right? So that's how conflict may start then. 8. Unacceptable attitudes and behaviors. This includes things like arrogance, coercion, intolerance, self-centeredness, pride, meddling, lying, cheating, nagging, and defamation. These behaviors can also all lead to a conflict. Now, all of these 8 I had mentioned here, from misunderstanding to unacceptable attitudes and behaviors, these are all other causes of conflict. Therefore, we need to remember that it is important for us to be able to identify the causes of conflict so that we can resolve them peacefully.
Now let us move on to dealing with personal and structural dimensions of conflict. First, we have the nonviolent direct action. So this refers to efforts to persuade with action via methods of protest, non-cooperation, and intervention without using physical violence. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create a situation that would liberate victims from silence and helplessness. This was evident, for example, in Chile, where people for years suffered in silence. Nonviolent direct action is a strategic approach to social change that utilizes methods of protest, non-cooperation, and intervention without resorting to physical violence. It is about standing up for what's right without resorting to violence. Now, the key strategies of nonviolent direct action. First, we have the nonviolent protest and persuasion. So, this involves peace demonstrations like marches, rallies, and sit-ins, public appeals, petitions, and lobbying. Second, we have the nonviolent non-cooperation. This involves boycotts, strikes, and other economic actions, civil disobedience such as refusing to obey unjust laws. Third, we have the nonviolent intervention, interfering with unjust systems like occupying buildings or blockades. Now, how nonviolent direct action leads to change. So, Gene Sharp, a renowned scholar of nonviolent action, identified four mechanisms of change. First, we have the conversion. This conversion, it talks about persuading the opponent to change their viewpoints and adopt the goals of the movement. Second, the accommodation. The opponent, without changing their beliefs, agrees to some or all of the demands to avoid further conflict. Third one, we have the nonviolent coercion. It's about depriving the opponent of the resources and power necessary to maintain their position. And then also we have the disintegration, causing the collapse of the opponent's power structures. Now, next one is tolerance. So, according to UNESCO in 1995, tolerance is the respect, acceptance, and appreciation of the rich diversity of cultures and various forms of human expression. It is the foundation of democracy and human rights. Furthermore, it is about respecting, accepting, and appreciating the differences between people. It means recognizing that everyone is unique and has the right to be who they are, regardless of their race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or any other characteristics. Now, the question is, why is tolerance important? So, it is important because it helps to create a more peaceful and harmonious society. When we are tolerant of others, we are less likely to discriminate against them or to engage in violence. Tolerance is also essential for democracy and human rights. Now, the other question is that how can we teach and learn tolerance? There are many ways to teach and learn tolerance. First, examine your own biases. In the classroom, do you give more favorable attention to students who are physically or socioeconomically advantaged? So, we all have biases, but it's important to be aware of them so that we can challenge them. Ask yourself if you treat certain people differently based on their race, gender, or other characteristics. Second, use inclusive or non-discriminating language as language shapes consciousness. So, use language that is respectful of all people. Avoid using words that are offensive or discriminatory. Then, highlight the value of diversity. So, teach your children that diversity is a good thing. Explain that we can learn from people who are different from us. Then, of course, we need to show examples of tolerance in action. Read stories about people who have overcome prejudice and discrimination. Watch movies that promotes tolerance. Then, of course, talk about tolerance with your children. Explain to them why tolerance is important and how they can be tolerant of others. So, these are the benefits of tolerance. When we are tolerant of others, we can actually build stronger relationships, solve problems more effectively, and create a more peaceful and just society. So, tolerance is actually a valuable quality that everyone should strive to develop. By teaching and learning tolerance, we can create a more compassionate and understanding world. Now that will be all for my part. Thank you for listening.